Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 33, overall 528 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Road West in the Gulf Island. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com and tell them that Chris Palme sent you there. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969, and yours truly has been a customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet for the last 25 years. I hope everybody is doing well on this. I can't believe it's already Thursday, April 24th, 2025, and I'm looking forward to my show tonight. I have a couple of guests on tonight, and my guests are Jane Lawton Potelle. She is the founder of the Eaton Fire Residents United, or known as the EFRU, and my other guest is Nicole Maccalla. She is a PhD researcher, educator, and community advocator as well, and she's also a teacher with UCLA and USC in California, and they're going to come on and we're going to talk about the fires out in Eaton County, which is a part of Los Angeles. Good evening, Nicole. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us, Chris.
Well, thank you so much. What's the weather like out in LA today?
It's been a little bit cold lately. I think there's some rain coming. So I saw an alert today that maybe by Friday, Saturday, we'll get a few more scattered showers. So it's a little bit chilly. We're going to soak it up until the extreme heat gets here, which is right around the corner. So.
Well, today here in Southern Ontario, it's nice and sunny, and it was actually, we do our weather here in Celsius, not in degrees like you guys do it. It's about 26 here, so around 80. It felt like June weather here today in Southern Ontario.
Nuts.
So, but hey, Nicole, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, and I think we're trying to get Jane coming on too. I think she's just having a little bit of technical difficulties, which does happen with doing live stream and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm sure she'll get it sorted out.
Well, as we wait for Jane coming on, you have 2 kids, but you also have 2 dogs and 7 cats, and you also, I read in your bio that you rescued some cats during the fires too.
Yes, we did. So one of the things that just broke my heart about the fires was all of the displaced pets in addition to all the displaced families. And so, a great part of Altadena didn't get a emergency alert to evacuate until the entire neighborhood was already on fire. And so there were hundreds of pets that were left behind. People couldn't find them. Their houses were already on fire when they were leaving. And so I had evacuated my 2 cats, Lynx and Zimba, and my 2 dogs, Nova and Cammy. We had gotten Nova 2 weeks before the fire hit. So we had this, 12-week-old puppy who was very sweet, and then evacuated with my pets. But, weeks and still months after the fire, we're still finding pets that are displaced and trying to connect them with their families. So I found a pregnant mama cat who had burned paws, and I basically rescued her. Our Humane Society was already overflowing, so I took her there, and they asked if I could please keep her. Could I please foster her? Because they were just already at max and sending animals to different states and stuff. And so I kept her trying to find her family, and so far I haven't been able to locate her family, but now I have, she's a black and white tuxedo cat named Popcorn, and now she has 4 beautiful babies, and we kept the theme of movie snacks. So we've got Kit Kat, we've got Dibs and Licorice and Oreo. So, and they're almost ready for adoption.
Well,
so if anybody needs a little baby fire survivor, they're adorable.
Thank God for people like yourself. And I, here in Canada, I volunteer at a local humane society twice a week with fundraising and walking dogs. And when tragedies happen, it seems like pets and animals are the ones that are forgotten about the most. And it's hard on them too, being displaced and not knowing what was going on.
Yeah, my pets have been really stressed out being in a new environment. And then I used to work from home with my cats a lot. And so, and now I don't see them because I have to commute over an hour and a half to get my daughter to school. And then I hang out still in the, Pasadena area while she's at school. And then we go home. So my cats are super stressed out. Like everybody's stressed. It's not working for any of us.
And this fire started January 7th, and it lasted to January 31st. And since I have you on here, have a lot of the other animals, have they found homes yet, or are they still displaced?
There's actually so many animals that have not been claimed. So Pasadena Humane Society has a ton of animals that are available for adoption. There's a whole bunch of partnered humane societies. They've actually found partners even in other states. I know cats and dogs were sent to Texas and to Utah. And so thank you for everybody out there that's been helping with all of our displaced pets. And every single day they're still trapping more animals. So there's still an active campaign every night to set out traps and food and get the cats and other animals, hopefully reunited. So there's a huge lost pets page for both the Palisades and Eaton fires. And there's literally daily, a mission to go find more animals and help try and reunite them. But it's been really hard because there were so many thousands of pets that were put into the system. The organization of that has been tricky, and they've been sent to so many places that it's not necessarily easy to go find your missing pet. So I think that's one of the sad pieces. There's so many people still looking, and the animals also change their appearance because your pet probably won't look like it used to. It might have fur, it might be different, the whiskers, the temperament, all of that. So it's also kind of hard. You've got to really know the markings. Like, my one cat, Zimba, has a little black dot on his lip. And he's an orange cat. So I'm like, if I ever lose you, I'll know that's your little tattooed, little black lip there. But it's hard for folks to find them and match them, and the shelters can only hold them for about a month before they have to relocate them. So it's just been a mess. Like, people are still trying to get on their feet, and then you mix that in with trying to find your furry babies, and it's definitely a devastating piece of all this disaster.
Maybe at the end of this show, we can, you guys can share websites where people that are watching this show live streamed or on audio can help out as well. And I have to ask you this too, before we get Jane on. Mm-hmm. I know here in Ontario, here near Toronto, all our pets have to be microchipped and spayed. You guys have that in California for pets?
So we do have the option, but it's not mandatory. So that's what's such a bummer. There's so many pets that were not microchipped. You do have to register your pets, but you don't have to microchip them. And so, so many people were like, my pet's an indoor pet. Like, it doesn't go out. Like, I didn't think I needed that, And so I think there's a huge lesson there. I would totally agree. Microchip your pets. All of mine have microchips, not the babies yet, but, I think that's a huge tool, right, to reunite if anything bad happens.
And Jane, I see you're back on. I want to say, Jane, thank you for coming on here. And you're the founder of the Eaton Fire Residents, along with Nicole. And how are you doing? And
I am. Going on hopefully you can hear me. My internet.
I can see. I could hear you. I think she might have frozen.
My internet's a little unstable, so I apologize. I'm hoping you can hear me all right. Right.
We'll get through it. We'll get through it, and it's just like TV, radio. We'll make sure we get through this. But Jane, I want to say thank you for giving us some time out of your busy schedule as well.
You're absolutely welcome. I'm hoping you can hear me. Are you able to hear me all right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Am I still frozen? Am I still frozen?
Nope, you're okay right now. You're okay.
Okay. Thank goodness. I'm sorry. Something's going on with my internet where I am in Hollywood. So yeah, thank you so much for having us on your show today. We're living a very alternate life in Los Angeles. A lot of people, even in the city of Los Angeles, have no idea. I'm sure many of you are aware that we had over 9,400 homes burned to the ground, and that is in a matter of just a few miles. So the level of devastation and impact on our community has been pretty significant.
And I was just talking to Nicole before you popped on today. They found out, they caught the suspect.
Are you able to hear me?
The fires. Yeah, I can hear you. I was just saying they arrested a suspect for arson in Warehouse, New Jersey. A 19-year-old kid who decided to set the fires for there as well. So I was talking to Nicole too. I guess they haven't really had an announcement yet on how these fires started on January 7th, I believe.
Yeah, no final.
There hasn't been an official statement. Yeah, there hasn't been an official final statement, but there has been quite a few attorneys that have come to our community and have done quite a lot of forensic study with drones and such, and they have their theories about what actually caused the fire. The indicators are pointing towards SCE having a decommissioned tower for 54 years that was ungrounded next to two live towers. There is some suspicion that the power jumped from those live cables in the wind and arced over to the decommissioned ungrounded tower. And there are many witnesses with their cameras and a local gas station that caught the sparkings, the beginning, because it was nighttime or dusk, and you could see from all of those cameras and the hillside, and that seems to be right where the decommissioned tower sat, which is unfortunate because if that's in fact what caused the fire, this is a force of nature per se that caused this fire. It was if in fact that is, the tower was the start of this fire, that it was a result of neglect mixed in with the high winds.
I was going to bring that up, the high winds and probably lack of rain. Yep, can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, those are things, lack of rain is something that we are constantly dealing with every year for the most part. The high winds were projected to be quite fierce. And they were certainly the worst winds I've ever witnessed in the 30 years or so that I've lived here. But it was unfortunate that if in fact the cause of the fire was this decommissioned tower, that either the power wasn't turned off and its live towers close by, or that that tower hadn't been taken down. So.
What is the latest with your with the city and with the state and the federal government in terms of getting you guys some help for those people that were affected, and businesses too?
Yeah, it's been really rough. I think the last several months have been a place for organizing. Like, folks are really trying to come together, and it's a lot of community organizing, to be honest. We're running into a lot of challenges and barriers with underfunding and under-resourced federal, departments of public health, state and local. And so it really is it's got to be a collaborative effort to help us, right? We've got a lot of different universities that are coming to aid and help us with generating information, right, about exposure and the effects of exposure to different contaminants that were released from the fire. And then, there's a lot of different aid groups that are popping up, and just a ton of different community-based organizations that are stepping up, like Eaton Fire Residents United, to help make a difference in our community. So there's a lot sort of on the agenda, and this is going to be something we're recovering from for years. And so a lot of that is to be determined kind of how we are supported, right?
Jane, what are your thoughts? And I wanted to ask you both too, the long-term environmental impacts and the invisible contaminations that people are still dealing with right now.
Yeah, it looks like Jane might be frozen, so I'll talk a little bit. There is a huge concern for public health, right? The early data that is out from soil testing, air testing, indoor testing is all pointing in the same direction, which is that there was widespread contamination into the community, right? That's basically where the smoke plume traveled, right? So the smoke traveled. Eaton Canyon is up nestled in the north part of Los Angeles, where we're right up against the San Gabriel Mountains, and the smoke plume traveled all the way there to the ocean, right? So it traveled all the way across the LA basin and into the ocean. And so that smoke carried a lot of contaminants. This isn't a normal type of wildfire, right? You have a majority of homes that were built pre-1970 that had lead and asbestos in them. You had, the fire devastated everything. So it exploded propane tanks and cars and batteries. You think of electric vehicles, machinery. I mean, everything melted, from appliances to plastics to furniture and personal belongings. And so all of that was pretty much vaporized and then traveled through our communities. So this is very different kind of smoke than just a regular wildfire, right? It's filled with toxic substances. And so that's really the major concern, is like, what is that going to do to folks? And you've got to think about extent of exposure, length of exposure, and every human body is different. So figuring out, there's some folks in our community that are already getting really sick, that could get sick almost instantly and can't breathe from asthmatic episodes or headaches or, sort of like sneezing, coughing, like, dizziness. There's folks that, immediately are having those effects. And then there's folks that it's taking a little bit longer for that to develop. So we do have a huge public health, crisis, and need to watch very carefully what happens. And especially for folks, that don't have access to resources, let's say, to clean their home properly, right? So when you've got lead in your home or asbestos in your home, it's not as simple as just wiping down surfaces. So there's a lot to unpack here.
If Jane is back, hopefully we can get Jane in here involved as well. I wanted to ask Jane this as well. Is it safe for people to come back to their homes now, even though it's been over 3 months since the fires were put out, I believe, January 31st?
Jane, do you want to take that one? Is it safe to come back to the homes?
Can you hear? Yeah, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I'm doing my best to try to strengthen my internet, but for some reason I'm having a lot of trouble today. So the fires did take quite a while to be put out. I honestly can't tell you the exact date and which Eaton Fire was completely extinguished. But I can tell you that that it continued up into the hills further north of us. We are located, Altadena is the furthest north community, and then Pasadena is just below it. And then Sierra Madre is just to the east of Altadena. But Sierra Madre and Altadena are right up against the hills of the Angeles Forest, which is, and so the fire did make its way further north into the National Forest. And that did take a while to extinguish. But the area around, not extinguished overnight. There was also the Palisades fire, which happened on the other side of it, simultaneously. I think it may have started just after Eaton Fire, but it's all around the same time. So our resources, our firefighting resources were split between two communities where unfortunately there weren't there was a lot of fires happening in the community where there were no first responders. And to say that obviously the fires that were occurring in Los Angeles were so widespread, I'm sure that our infrastructure wasn't prepared for that level of impact. Fires in our community did continue for a couple of days, 8th and January 9th, days after the start of the fire.
And Chris, to your question about is it safe to return to homes? So about half of the homes in Altadena completely burned to the ground. There's about half that are left standing, but many of those were significantly damaged, right? So my home personally, my roof burned. The structure still stands. I was able to get a new roof, but I also have, significant smoke damage. So the homes and businesses and schools and churches and community spaces that are left standing, nothing really survived without getting, hit really badly with this fire. So the Department of Public Health currently has an order to avoid returning to a standing structure to live in if you are within 750 feet of a burned structure. And so that the advisory for that is to wait until after phase 2 debris removal is complete, which means that the Army Corps of Engineers has cleared all these, 9,000 plus properties of all of the fire debris. So that is expected to take a minimum of 12 months to complete, and we'll see, if they're able to make that aggressive timeline. So there's also currently an advisory for our schools and sports facilities, parks. There was soil lead found at very high levels in our soil with the recent studies that have come out, and so all fields are closed for children, for sports and things of that nature. And homes are suggested to test the soil and to engage in soil remediation so that the outside is clean. Like right now, the public health department says, make sure your dog does not sniff outside. Make sure you wash everybody's, feet. You have a sticky mat at your door. Don't bring in that dirt from the outside into your house. That dust is got toxins in it. And so, mop frequently, vacuum frequently if you're going home, in addition to all of the other stuff you were supposed to do in your home. The funny thing is that even though there's that mandate out for homes, you should not return to your home if you are within 750 feet of a burned structure until after phase 2 debris removal. It doesn't apply to schools at the moment. And so we have children sitting in schools all day long that are looking out the windows at completely burned down structures, and driving through communities to get to school, having to pass through burned down, streets that are completely burned down. We have debris trucks passing by those schools every single day, hundreds, if not thousands of them a day. My street actually, where the cross section for my street is one of the pathways for the debris removal trucks. So there's a lot of questions about safety, and there's a lot of unknowns right now about safety, right? We need data to understand the scope of the problem and the level of exposure that folks are having. And then we need partners. We need folks to come and help us make sense of that data. And we need, folks to be able to act on that data. So there's a lot of unknowns about safety. But there are definitely some clear communications right now from public health, and they're not necessarily very promising, right?
All right, I think my internet's a little better right now. I've done a bunch to try to clear my connection. So hopefully you guys can see me and hear me better now. Yes?
It's better. It's a little better. Yep.
Definitely can see it. Yeah, we'll get through it. Jane, if you can hear me, Jane and Nicole, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Obviously, the physical aspect with the homes and all the buildings being destroyed, but can you guys both explain about the emotional aspect of it? For children and
Yeah, I would say I can speak to my son's experience. It's been really difficult because he's not in his home. He was expressing to me just yesterday how much he misses his bedroom and all of his things. And I send my son to a school outside of the area. So his schooling wasn't interrupted, but we have friends in the community that, schooling, they didn't have school for a good 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks after the fire, because the district needed to find new locations for some of these campuses. But I can say that I talk to other families whose kids live in the area too, and there's a real sense of loss of home. Kids feeling like they've lost their community, they've lost connection to everything that they know and love, and feeling extremely sad and despondent at times for having lost everything that's familiar to them. Yeah. It's been hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, if you just think about, it's not just your home burning down, right? It's your entire community. So for example, for my kids, their preschool burned down, their place where they did choir burned down and did piano, their place where our favorite restaurants burned down, our post office burned down, our vet burned down, their dentist burned down, our bike shop burned down, right? Like, where we used to get pizza is gone. Parks are gone. Where my kids did all of their performances growing up are gone. The homes that we lived in before we moved to the home we have now are gone, right? Completely burned to the ground. So we, went and saw our old apartment building. We went and saw our old house and where my kids used to sleep. And, like, it's a lot. And you drive by this every day. So it's really hard, like, to get your bearings of, you're not just like, having to figure one thing out. It's like you're figuring out everything from, like, mail, where you go get your mail. We have to go stand in line to get packages at a special spot. In the early days, there was hundreds of folks just standing around, and they would call your number, and it was just so hard because it's just like address after address that they're calling, that it's just like, this is how big it is. And so it's like emotionally really, really hard. And it's something that's not over for us. So I think it's, it's not like it just happened and it's done. It's like we're still living it and trying to recover from it. And so, I think community right now is really important. It's one of the reasons why I kept my daughter at her school. Her school was closed for a whole month after the fire. We are right on the edge. Her school is right on the edge of the burn zone. And, going back with teachers who also lost their homes and her best friends. I mean, I can't even count how many. I think we stopped counting around 14 of her when we got to like 14, 15 of her friends that lost their homes. It was like, I can't even count. Like our best friends lost their homes. Where we played game nights is gone, right? Like where we had our barbecues, where we swam, like everything, where we played soccer, right? Like where I used to take my daughter in her stroller to the park, like everything that we know that's familiar is gone. And so I think that being able to stay connected, at least with friends and teachers and staff that get it for the kids, is really important right now, because this is a major trauma. And I've learned a lot about trauma and impacts of fire trauma specifically. And there's a whole phenomenon around fire brain. And, we are cognitively just emotionally, all of it, financially, it's devastating on every level. It's hard to even put into words.
Jane and Nicole, is there a support system, especially for the younger kid that this is really having a hard time coping with it right now?
I mean, I would say there are a lot of grassroots organizations that are starting up to try to provide support and help, but a lot of it is finding support with lost furniture, or trying to find a place for people to live who may not have had insurance. Because we sure did have a large community that couldn't get insurance because no one would insure them, because we're seeing an exodus, if you will, of insurance companies wanting to provide policies for homeowners. And we have some state plans, but they don't really, the California Fair Plan doesn't really provide a lot for those folks. And then we see, other folks with insurance having challenges. But overall, there's been an incredible amount of community helping community happening in our area. Mental health is a significant one. And we're starting to see local folks trying to help other local folks, as Nicole identified. My son goes to a school outside the area. So unfortunately, when I asked for some mental health help for him through the school, they were not able to provide that. So I'm trying to figure that out right now for him, because, sometimes this trauma is delayed, right? Sometimes, we see all of us adults trying to show up every day and find solution for quite a lot of lost items, and trying to find new places to live, and trying to create a sense of stability for our kids and be strong for them. And our kids can mimic that behavior. But, it's been 3 months, and now my kid's starting to really feel the impact emotionally. And finding that support is going to be important for him to continue with a sense of wholeness and a sense of healing. And I can tell that he has a lot of he has nightmares and concerns, and it's understandable. The delayed response factor is something that that I think might be something that a lot of other families might be experiencing as well. So, yeah.
I was going to mention post-traumatic stress disorder as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I believe that's what's happening for our family, and I'm sure we're not the only ones.
I wanted to ask you, do you feel that the city and the state and the federal government are doing enough to help right now?
All right, I'll field that one, because I think my internet connection is a little better now. And that's basically why EFRU exists. In the days and the weeks after the fire, it became quite clear that this ash that was covering all of the standing structures that remained through the fire, this ash was not carbon, despite the fact that my insurance field adjuster tried to convince me of that. It was difficult to breathe. It was the times where I did go back to my home, I would wear a KN95 mask, and I would return back to where I was staying at a friend's house in the next town over, and my chest just hurt. It burned, and especially when I lay down for weeks and weeks afterwards. And I know that that's not an unusual experience. I know many others were experiencing difficulty breathing and sore throats and coughs that lasted for many, many weeks, if not months. It became clear to me that despite the fact that I reached out to public health and they said, well, there's no evidence that it's unsafe, was their quote, that we tried to do a Foley to EPA to find out what kind of testing they had done, and we got no information back. It became clear that no agency, no local official, none of our local representatives were answering the concerns that many of us had in the community as to how safe are we and why is the air so hard to breathe and should we be returning. And it wasn't until February 11th that our local public health put out the Los Angeles Department of Public Health put out an advisory that Nicole mentioned earlier, that if you have a domicile 750 feet from a burned structure, that they advise that you not return till phase 2. But that was a good 5 weeks after the fire. EFRU started, our first meeting was on January 27th. After I could not get any answers as to what kind of contaminants that might be in our area and why I was having so much trouble breathing, I put out a Zoom to some of our local Facebook pages and just said, who wants to meet to discuss the strategy of mapping industrial hygienist tests? And 60 people showed up who I did not know to this Zoom. A few people I knew, but a majority of which I didn't. And we started talking about the data that we could get our hands on, which were these industrial hygienist tests that people started to do on their homes. And then it became quite clear that all the concerns we had about the contaminants, what kind of contaminants there might be out there, were actually there. We have tried to get the attention of our Board of Supervisors. She has not responded to our meeting requests. We have reached out to our local representatives. They have been responsive in having meetings with us, but there's some concern as to what to do next because the impact is so great. Governor Newsom has not responded. We've tried emailing and calling their office numerous times. The focus has been on burned down structures, and certainly there were quite a few. There were thousands of burnt down structures that need to be addressed. These people need to be made whole and have their homes returned to them. Unfortunately, for those of us with standing structures, that for all visual evidence says that your home is intact. We're having a lot of difficulty returning back to these structures that literally are making us sick. And the question comes up for me: how does a community continue, and how do we hold the space and continue operating as a community if our homes aren't even safe for us to live in? So no, we have not received any real support as standing structures, as a community with many standing structures. We have tried to reach out to our representatives, and it's been very hard to get that support and recognition of what kind of experience that we're having, and the challenges we're facing in figuring out next steps to make our homes safe again.
Jane and Nicole, I wanted to ask you, who came up with the 750? Because to me, 750 feet is not that far away. And to me, I don't think that's safe. And from seeing the video footage and the pictures of the fires here in California from here in Canada, it looks like a war zone.
It is a war zone. It is.
It is. It's an absolute war zone, and it's unfathomable, really. You really kind of have to see it to understand it. And 750 feet is an arbitrary number that was decided. There's no scientific evidence that is sufficient. There's not even, enough evidence, as Jane's talking about, to describe the problem that we are facing, right? So we have community groups and researchers that are popping up to help us. And that's really where we've, I think, had the most support, is connecting with other research teams that are coming to our area that are securing some type of funding to figure out, is our water safe? Is our air safe? Is our soil safe? Are the interior, belongings safe, right? There's so many questions that remain unanswered, and we definitely need support. As Jane mentioned, the standing structures, right? There are hundreds of thousands of people living within 5 miles of that burn zone, right? Hundreds of thousands of people that are in direct contact with that smoke plume, and even farther, right? There's been studies showing elevated levels of lead 7 miles from the burn line. So this is significant. And yeah, 750 feet, you can throw a ball that far. That's not very far, right? It's so it's like, my home is it's like about 950 feet from the nearest burn structure. So yeah, it's like, is that 200 feet really the thing that makes the difference? Or does every time the wind blow and the ash comes back in my house, right? Like, I will wash outside. I've had pressure washing. Within 24 hours, there's an entire layer of ash still on everything. It comes right back. Because it's all being kicked up, all the debris is being cleared, the wind still blows, right? And almost every day I pick up another piece of debris out of my yard, like just a random piece of somebody's roof or something will come into my yard. So, there's definitely questions about safety, and we do need more support.
Yeah, my house at this point looks like a derelict house. I mean, we were in the middle of renovating our yard. We were going to do some home hardening, and that was the time when the fires hit. And, we had a bare lot because we had pulled everything out of our front yard. And now it's just, I have 2-foot high weeds in my front yard. I'm about 150 feet from 3 burn structures, but from the actual burn area where, the central sort of nexus area of where most of the homes burn, I am about 300 yards. So in feet, I guess that's, I don't know, I'm not good with this math. You're the scientist there, Nicole, but
it's about the same as I am. Yeah, that 900 feet kind of.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's 2 blocks to to the east of me and 1 block to the north of me. Everything's burned down.
And the tricky part too is like, how much of it needed to burn, right? Because there's so many structures that are not on the map of a damaged structure like mine, right? 3 homes on my street had roofs that burned that had to be replaced, right? Like, so we're not technically in the burn zone, right? We're at 950 feet from an actual full-on burned down structure, but our structures did burn, right? And they didn't burn all the way, so it's not seen as significant. But in normal times, if your roof burned and you had to get a new roof, it would feel pretty significant, right? If like you were the only house on the block and oh my gosh, that happened to you, that would be pretty significant. And now it's like, oh, you're fine, right? Like you're the lucky one. Like your house is still standing and you can go home to it. But it's like, it's mentally, that's hard to sort of wrap your head around, because in normal times, like that would be a pretty big deal if you had to rebuild your roof and replace your windows and replace all the contents of your home and do hundreds of thousands of dollars of repairs. That would feel pretty significant in a normal day. So,
and I also want to address something that Nicole just said. The lucky ones. I have dozens of people I know whose homes burned to the ground and the only thing left are chimneys. But for those of us with standing homes, we're left in this gray zone. Insurance companies didn't want to acknowledge that we had contaminants in our homes, that they were damaged in any way. The fact that we had to, at EFRU, develop this map in order to show our local officials and also our insurance companies, and hopefully folks on the state level will start looking at it too, that we do have damage. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean that it isn't there, right? And in fact, this kind of damage, unlike part of a fence being blown down or shingles off your roof being dislodged, this kind of damage can be life-threatening. I mean, think about it. Your house could be killing you. And our insurance company doesn't even want to acknowledge that. No one on the state level is acknowledging that. Even on the county level, no one is acknowledging that. Our health department isn't acknowledging that. And having this map showing all the kinds of contaminants that are showing positive in these home hygienic tests that people have paid out of their own pocket to show are there. And by the way, these tests cost anywhere from like $3,000 to $20,000. It's not cheap.
Wow.
It's really
and so now insurance companies are beginning to turn and realize the implications of not paying for these tests, because so many people have paid for it out of their own pocket, and they're able to say, hey, my neighbor's got chromium, my neighbor's got arsenic, I need to test too. So now there's a slow recognition happening on the insurance front to agree to pay for this. But in some cases, insurance companies are sending in their own experts to test, and everybody's finding lead. I mean, there's no way to deny that, but the level of significant impact from contaminants, I wonder if it's being mitigated, because I'm also seeing people who have hired their own experts to test their home with really high levels of contaminants. And then the insurance company is hiring their own expert to come in and come up with their own version of levels of contaminants. And, it's unfortunate that we're in this financial, this all comes down to money. Whose expert is more correct. There's no protocols on testing. There's no protocols set for type of testing or methods of testing. Who should be testing your home? Should it be an industrial hygienist who has a 40-hour accreditation to test for lead or test for asbestos, but doesn't have any knowledge about all the other kind of contaminants that could be in your home? Or should you be hiring a CIH, a certified industrial hygienist, whose specialty is to deal with, disaster impacted homes due to fire or floods or things like that, who can do the more comprehensive testing for the other contaminants. I mean, people are hiring essentially industrial hygienists that work at a construction company and go in to see if they need to do any type of abatement before they tear down a house. And they're hiring that person to be their industrial hygienist, when in fact they should be hiring somebody who's going to do a forensic look behind their walls to know whether or not there is, sight unseen, damage happening, between their walls, their drywall and their studs, right? And I think we're going to start finding, as time goes by, people are going to be developing, this is what we're concerned about, people developing headaches and watery eyes and coughs in their own home and not understand why, because all the ash is cleaned up, but the contaminants are still there unless you test and know.
Or cancer. And the next.
Yeah,
the next.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the more long-term implications, but that's just a matter of years too, right? So
2 years, yeah.
I wanted to get both of your thoughts on this. Obviously, the first few weeks of the fires, there was nonstop media attention, but have you found the national media attention has shrunk, and even in the last months or so?
I feel like, folks understandably are moving on to the next thing, right? There's other important things happening in the world, and I think the fire is out, right? So folks in their mind, think it's over, right? I don't think there's this real understanding that the disasters after the disasters, like the disaster is just magnified, right? It's like we didn't just have one disaster. Now we have a small business disaster. We have health disasters. We have housing disaster. We have education disasters. We have all these mental health, physical health, right? You've got all these disasters that are happening now simultaneously. And I think it takes, opportunities like this, Chris, to talk and share, like, hey, this is still going on for us. Like, our lives have not returned to normal. And so we appreciate the coverage and opportunity to share our story, because I don't think you would know unless you kind of go through it, or unless you're hearing stories like this, that this is still very much underway. And we appreciate all the coverage that we've received, for sure.
Yeah, and to tag along on that, this isn't just about rebuilding structures. This isn't just about building back someone's house or building back a business, which certainly is absolutely vital to restore our community. But it's also about recognizing that our parks, our swings, our play structures, our recreation centers, our library, our schools, and those remaining standing structures are covered in contaminants right now. They're just covered. And the fact that our state and our local authorities did no testing in order to find that out. And it wasn't until EFRU started coming back with this map saying, look at all these contaminants, that we started to see more efforts being put into money coming forward to test for soil. The county has come forth with $3 million to test for soil within the burn area and 1 mile downwind, which is excellent.
And that just came out about
just the start.
Like 1 week ago, they made that decision.
Ago, yeah. 1 week. I mean, we're looking at 3 months in, and that was 1 week ago.
Over 100 days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The contaminant level, I believe, the more time that goes by, we're going to realize just how significant it is. And we need our government to start stepping in and doing more now, because the longer we wait to clean up our parks and our schools and our other public spaces and low-income homes that might not have the access to insurance or their own funds. What about renters? Oh my God, renters, landlords who just come in and sweep, and they completely ignore the toxic levels inside these homes. I mean, renters have no agency. If government doesn't step in, this is going to be a toxic pool, and not just for this year while they're rebuilding homes. It's going to remain even for the people
for decades.
Yeah, even for the people whose homes are new. They're going to start feeling ill, and they're not going to understand why. And it's because it's in the air. It's because when they go out in their yard and their kids are playing in their yard, they don't realize how toxic their yard is. Even at now.
Even at burned structures, they only remove the burned footprint, right? So even those thousands of homes that the Army Corps of Engineer is clearing, they only remove the burned footprint. So what about the other piece there? Maybe they had a 2,000 square foot home, if they were lucky enough, right, on a 6,000 square foot property, right? So the other 4,000 square feet of their property hasn't been remediated, right? So there's not even a plan for the burn structures to fully recover, much less all the folks that are downwind. And so there's just so much unknown, but previous disasters can give us a window into what we're facing, right? So we're not just making this stuff up. There are previous disasters where first responders come down within 2 years of rare cancers, where children in schools that got put back too quickly come down with rare cancers. And there's these clusters of illnesses, right, that are unexplained. And so we have previous experiences that we should be learning from, right? This isn't the first time a disaster has ever happened. So it would be really nice if we had some, some legislative and leadership around what can we learn from those other disasters and put in place right now to try and prevent or mitigate some of that harm that is likely to come to this community.
I mean, think about it for a moment. One thing I'm just going to mention, sorry to cut you off, Chris.
No, it's okay.
This is statistically the second most structural burn in California history. The second worst structural burn in California history is, leave the Palisades out, just Eaton Fire. 9,400 structures burned. It is certainly the most dense wildfire in California history, and perhaps even in the nation. And what is our government doing to recognize the level of contaminants that are covering all of our homes and public spaces right now? What are they doing? I can tell you so far, nothing.
Thoughts on the government taking away FEMA, and the thing is, it's not just the homes that need to be rebuilt, like the structures and the homes, but the environmental impact could be felt for maybe decades going ahead in time, the next 10, 20 years.
And nobody even wants to talk about that, right? We're trying to focus on public health because environment is almost a bad word right now, right? It's like folks don't even want to think about the environment. And so, yes, public health and the environmental disaster. And I honestly don't think that there's very many groups that are focused on the environmental disaster piece. There's just not even an appetite for it right now.
What is the death toll from the fires right now? And I'm assuming this is going to increase in the next 6 months to next few years with all this environment stuff in the air and all the toxics around.
Yes, I think right now from the Eaton fire, I believe there were a total of 18 lives that were lost here and 12 that were lost in the Palisades fire. That number might be off, but that is, I think, early April estimates. And I don't know how they consider the elderly who have pre-existing conditions with asthma, who maybe have now had episodes since then. And I don't even know if there's a way to track all of that of Eaton fire related deaths, right? I mean, those are just the deaths that were recorded sort of in that moment, right? But the aftermath of folks that that we're facing There's not even a plan right now in place to characterize that. That's part of the problem, right? There's not even a plan in place. So I know UCLA is actually starting a wildfire longitudinal health study, right, to try and step in and help that. But these are universities coming to the table to help us answer these questions. These are not our leaders. These are not our elected officials. These are not our government agencies. These are, scientists and community leaders and advocates that care about the well-being of communities that are stepping forward. And so I'm really glad to see that work is happening. And it's also unfortunate that it has to be put on the shoulders of the community itself and institutions. I mean, we have universities from all over the United States, thank you, coming to help us, right? We've got all kinds of collaborations, and we're deeply grateful for that. And we need more assistance for sure. We need more help, and we need our leaders.
And I'm just going to say,
using that. Yeah.
Go ahead, and I'm going to say one other thing to that. I love that we have all this academia coming to our community, wanting to do these studies, reaching out to EFRU and the data that we've been able to collect on standing homes. But at the end of the day, if our government isn't doing anything to help mitigate these contaminants, we're just lab rats that everyone gets to watch and see how we get affected and possibly die from all of these, from the impact of these contaminants. I mean, at the very least, can we reduce the impact? Can we mitigate it by addressing what's actually happening with the amount of impact that we have with these, with standing homes? Where do people spend most of their time? Indoors. Why are our schools reopening where we haven't done any real removal of textiles? Why should we subject ourselves and leave ourselves open to further damage, to death, because our government isn't doing anything to help us mitigate these contaminants? I'm all into helping science and helping us understand the larger impacts, but I really, really don't want to see my community be the to see, can we do anything to mitigate?
I think that's definitely the question, right? We need action. We need action. Here's the information. And now what do we do about it? And how do we prevent this kind of thing from happening to other communities, and there's so much that we need help with right now.
Yeah, and let's mitigate the amount of impact
Nicole,
that we have on our community.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Chris?
Jane and Nicole, are you okay for another 5 minutes?
Sure.
Another few minutes, and I would like to play a video that was from YouTube, from CKLA, your CBS affiliate in LA, and Nicole, you were in this video as well. It's about a 3-minute clip, but you guys are both okay for a few more minutes?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. You guys are educating me, and hopefully I can help educate some other people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's going on in Los Angeles and Eaton County. Just want to say, and this clip was courtesy of KCAL, California. And please let me know if you can hear the audio okay.
And story number 6, people affected by the Eaton fire are facing new challenges over invisible dangers lurking inside their home.
Yeah, KCAL News reporter Amanda Starantino talked to some frustrated residents who say their insurance companies were giving them no options but just to move back in.
With the San Gabriel Mountains behind their property, Grace Rugliano and her family have not been able to return to their Pasadena home since evacuating during the Eaton fire.
Many of us are insured but are still being
Rugliano coming back to her house to water her plants, a simple task made difficult as she suffers with asthma.
If I don't wear a mask, I'm coughing for a week.
And the hidden dangers upon return loom over her and her neighbors.
We've largely been abandoned by our local officials, our state and federal government and insurance companies. And we're having to figure out how to make things safe for ourselves and our families.
To get their own answers, a group of residents in Altadena and Pasadena are working together as the Eaton Fire Residents United to create a community-generated contamination map, compiling professional testing results completed at homes in these neighborhoods impacted by the fire.
This map lays contamination levels. The houses that burned 300 yards away from me, they're all, quite old homes. And so you're looking at lead, you're looking at asbestos, a lot of titanium, possibly mercury, the lithium from the electric car batteries.
Professional home testing is not covered by insurance. It can cost thousands of dollars per household. So far, more than 50 houses have shared their results. Regliano has been unable to make an appointment with the testing company due to a backlog in requests. She is relying on this map to make a decision for her family.
There are ways to measure it, and it shouldn't be up to a group of scrappy residents trying to make this happen. This should be something that the government is doing, that our insurance companies are doing. So that's what we're hoping to advocate for with this map.
31% char, 2% soot.
A few blocks away in Altadena, Nicole Maccalla had her house tested, and her results are part of the shared map.
What's really striking on this map, there are some homes that, mile from the burn line, and they are testing positive for every single heavy metal that was on that list.
All professional test submissions from residents with standing homes so far have shown elevated lead levels and wildfire debris, and nearly all homes tested were recommended for professional remediation.
Conversation that is missing is structures intact, and those that are still here and would like to return. So it was a void that needed to be filled. I think it's ridiculous that citizens are having to do this, but there's a gap and we need the information. We need the information now.
Residents in the area are encouraged to submit their professional test results to be shared anonymously on this public resource. It's information homeowners like Regliano are desperate to get, as her family and so many others are left in the dark.
There's invisible toxins. And so the insurance companies, our politicians, think that just because it's invisible, they can get away with making us come back home when it's not safe. And that's going to have lasting repercussions for me, my kids' futures, and that's not okay.
In Pasadena, Amanda Storantino, KCAL News.
Thoughts on that video?
Wow. It's a lot to take in.
And I just want to say that we are now at 129 tests. Oh, sorry. I'm talking over you.
No, go for it.
I just saying that we're now at 129 tests mapped on EFRU.LA. So that was early days. That was just 3 weeks ago. But we're getting more and more tests coming in every day. And the contaminant levels are increasing because people are testing for more and more different kinds of contaminants than they were in the early days of just asbestos, lead, and a few other heavy metals. So, yep, we're going to find more and more.
How many level? I wanted to ask you both this. How many? What number would you say approximately that should be tested?
So this is a great question, and I would love to be at the table with some folks that could fund a actual representative sample, right, of our community. I think in an ideal world, every home would be tested, so you knew exactly what you were dealing with. But because over 95% of homes are coming back with elevated levels of lead past EPA levels, right? So 5 micrograms per square foot for floors and 40 micrograms per square foot for windowsills. We have over 3/4 of our homes coming back with lead levels past that 40 micrograms per square foot, right? So, I mean, of course, it's important that you know what's in your own home, but if all the homes, if 90, to 95 to 75% of the homes in your neighborhood are toxic and need lead abatement, right? Maybe we should just extend lead abatement to the rest of the folks, right? I mean, the testing is so expensive that I think if we actually had the right partners at the table to come up with a representative map of where should we test, let's make sure we have a mix of homes that were built at different ages, different little neighborhoods, right? We can follow the direction of the satellite imagery of the smoke plume, right? We know that we already have some data of where we think that smoke and the contaminants from that fire traveled. So we can come up with a very good plan for testing and then how to go forward from there, right? So right now we just have to wait until we have more and more tests coming in. And I think what's really promising about the tests we're receiving is that they are spread out all across Sierra Madre, Altadena, Pasadena. So we don't just have one little tiny cluster. We do have a pretty good view already. And we have a lot of homes that have submitted tests that are outside of the burn zone, right? So 2 miles from the burn zone. And so the more homes that the more information we have that we can represent, I think there gets to be a point where, if hundreds and hundreds of homes in this area are testing positive for this, and they're built at different times. They have, they're over 1,000 feet from burned structures. They may not have even had windows damaged or, things of that nature. It's like, if those homes are still contaminated, right? Can we extend lead abatement to everybody? Can we replace attic insulation for our community, right? That's right here in this zone. Can we make sure everybody has a mattress that's safe to sleep on, right? So the things that you're going to be in contact with for, many hours a day, that stuff settles into the fibers, into the foam, right? And so there's certain things that can't be cleaned in your home. And so, I think science can absolutely help us understand, how much testing do we really need to say, okay, we're pretty confident that this is what we're facing here, right? Like, that is a possibility. We do this all the time, right? For other studies. So unfortunately, that's falling, on us and other scientists that are stepping up. But I think we're getting there, and we have plans to expand our map and the representation. And so, we're hoping to get to that representative sample, and we're well on our way for sure.
Jane and Nicole, before we wrap this show up in a couple minutes, if a politician right now in your city or in the state or federally was watching this show, what would you say to them right now if you had an opportunity using my platform?
I would say come meet with us. We would love to share our information. We are coordinating with every other major study out there to make our data compatible, to synergize, to help paint as complete of a picture as possible of the challenges that we're currently facing. So come to the table with us, come bring your experts to the table, help us interpret this, help us come up with plans for our community. I would say come take a seat at the table with us. And then let's work on legislation to make sure that things like standing structures have the attention that they need, that our children, we have 14,000 children right now in our school district, and our schools have not been tested, right? Like let come partner with us, come help us make sure that this happens, come help us figure out what emergency funds we can tap into to make sure that everybody has equitable access to a safe return to their community, right? Like help us, come be a partner with us. That's what I would say. And Jane, you're on mute.
Oh yeah, Jane, can't hear you. It happens. It happens.
We want to hear it. It's like your last.
Sorry,
your last.
I just want to say, Nicole. No, sorry. Nicole, what you just said was so poignant. I mean, we really need our state. We need Governor Newsom. We need our local officials. We need everyone to come to the table and work on what kind of solutions we can provide in order to mitigate the level of impact that all of us are suffering from, not just from burned down homes, but from homes that are still standing and in our public spaces to make them safer. And the other thing I just want to make really, really clear is that this isn't a problem that's going to go away. If it doesn't get addressed, this problem is going to get amplified. because what we're going to see is more and more people getting sick and people coming down with life-threatening diseases.
And they're animals.
If
they're
our representatives, if our representatives, think that, well, maybe this will just all blow over in time and people will just come and, return back to normal. And, this is just a temporary complaint. It's going to get compounded so much more in just a matter of a few years. And you'll be known and you'll be remembered as that representative who didn't show up, that didn't listen to their constituents, who said over and over again, we need your help. This is a slow sinking ship. And this ship will sink unless we can get the help that we need now.
Jane, I wanted to ask as well, and maybe Nicole too, do you see in the next 5 years the population shrinking in this area or the state of California with people moving away from the state from this?
It's a good question. I mean, I know people have already had to move away from the state, right? And I think that's one of the questions that really needs to be explored of where is everybody displaced to, right? There are people that had to leave the state. It's going to take, maybe 20 years to build back that many structures, right? And I think what's really challenging too for like our small businesses is that the small businesses that are left that are not boarded up, right? The community has been gutted, so there's nobody to go to that business to keep it floating. So even the businesses that are the lifeblood of our community, like they're struggling too, right? So I think we are in a time of change, and I don't know where everybody's going. And so thank you for all the communities that are taking, our fire refugees in, right? We are displaced all over. And I think with the insurance pieces on the table as well of not wanting to insure homes or skyrocketing rates for insuring homes that are right here in Los Angeles, right? Like my home, even the latest map that was published has 0 fire risk. I am in a 0 fire risk area, right? So, so that's mind-boggling, right? Like, and insurance prices are going to push folks out. Some people couldn't even get insured, right? There was a huge exodus out of our community before this happened. And so that was like, we're talking months before December and stuff that this happened, that tons of insurance companies pulled out of our area, left people hanging. Some people didn't even get notified that they were cut. And so I think there's a real changing of demographics of, who has access, who can return home, right? Like who can rebuild. Insurance, with the cost of rebuilding right now, right? And expected increases in those costs. I mean, we're talking about a lot of challenges, and I don't know where folks are going to go. And I don't know if there's a plan right now to follow everybody, right? And to ensure that folks can come back, right? Like, how do we do that? We need help.
Final thoughts, Jane, and I wanted to ask you this both. Can you just tell us about the help from the other countries around the world? Or go ahead, Jane. Go ahead.
So you were asking me for final thoughts, but I want you to be able to finish what you were saying.
No. I can wait. Go ahead with your final thoughts.
Okay. So final thoughts. We, as Nicole said so eloquently, we need help. We need help now. Don't wait. Don't wait. The impact's only going to get greater and more significant. Will be the lives, the health risks to, and the quality of life that many of our neighbors and friends will be suffering from, unless we can get our government to show up and come in with some real solutions to mitigating the impact, as Nicole called it, the disaster after the disaster. We need to address this now, and waiting doesn't help. It only makes it worse. People are returning back to their homes every day because they have no other recourse, and They don't have the means to properly remediate. Some folks remediated not knowing they should have tested. If we have the science today to understand that these contaminants are extremely dangerous. What we don't have is equitable access to testing. And that's what we need right now. We need equitable access to testing every dwelling in the area of Altadena, Pasadena, and Sierra Madre, and maybe even further south than that, in order to ensure people are returning back to a safe home.
And Jane and Nicole, I have this show on 22 platforms, so I'm going to make sure as many video platforms, audio platforms, all my social media platforms this episode will be on. And if I can help out, maybe I'll even send a copy of this episode to Newsom as well. And what are your thoughts on the help from countries around the world, including Canada and Mexico, in assisting putting out the fires? And how can people help out online with donations with your Humane Society and also the American Red Cross?
Sure. First, I want to say thank you so much all over the world, really, and especially our neighboring countries and states. We were so supported. Everybody came to our rescue, and we wish that our local government had mobilized you all quicker and had some sort of pre-planning for some of that. But you all came through for us, and that is definitely not forgotten, and very much appreciated. I think, depending on, I'd say what you're passionate about, right? If it's animals, there's ways to help our animals. If it's our trees, right? There's huge efforts to save the tree canopy in our communities. We have, hundreds and 100-year-old oak trees that are protected species. We have, so if you're about trees and nature, if you're about wildlife, right? We've got bobcats and bears and coyotes and an incredible rich diversity in our forest area, right? If you're about building and construction, there's a massive amount of ways that you can contribute your time to help rebuild homes, your thoughts, your energy around, what to sort of keep in mind, the planning of it all, the architecture of it all. If you are a scientist or in, medicine, you can come help us make sense of all of this and help make policy and help us figure out how to frame things. And if you are in politics, help us figure out how to write the language for these bills, right? This is all new for us. We're just residents, right? Like, this is not my day job usually, right? And so we are learning all of this, but there is, whatever your interests are, your skills and expertise, we could use it right now. And a lot of it is the sweat equity, right? It's like donations Absolutely. Are amazing, and there's ways to do that are amazing, right? So there's tons of organizations. There's also tons of ways, excuse me, that you can support us just by helping, right? Just by being there for us, or so, and that's going to be for years. We need help, right? This is many, many years, and there's going to be many, many opportunities. We have a Eaton Fire Collective that is pulling together all the major organizations that are supporting our area and coordinating efforts. And so I would say, whatever it is you're passionate about and that moves you, there is a way for you to help us with that. So we can definitely share some links later. And some of that is like, it's developing. So I would say also follow us, check back on our EFRU website. We're still in this early stage where we're pulling together information and trying to assess the needs of our community and then trying to address those needs. So it's not even completely figured out what all those needs are, right? But there's definitely a way for anybody and everybody that wants to help us to help.
Jane,
you can reach out
closing thoughts
to us by going to our website. Yeah, you can reach out to us by going to our website. And we have a contact us section of our site where you can put in your question or your volunteer interest. And if it's not something our exact organization handles, we know the other organizations in our community that are handling mental health, that are handling social services, that are handling
Spiritual health.
getting furniture to people who have no furniture anymore, or mattresses, getting mattresses to children who need clean mattresses, getting new resources for our schools that really should be dumping out so many textiles. If you have resources, our schools may be willing to let go of some of the items they should be letting go of, and they're only holding on to because they have no other way to provide for these classrooms. We just reach out with any ideas. We'll take them.
Any ideas?
And we welcome your help. Thank you.
And what's the best way of contacting you guys, ladies? What's the best way of contacting you guys online then? And your website is what? EFRU.
So go to go to www.efru.la, and there's a contact us tab at the top of the page. Click on that and email us. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, I want to say, Jane and Nicole, thank you for giving us over an hour of your time. And I definitely would like to have you guys back on as a future guest, maybe in 6 months from now, and maybe hopefully things will start getting better, because this is going to be a long-term rebuild, not just a month or two, obviously. And I want to say thank you for sharing your stories with us. And I will send you guys a video and an audio copy, and I will break this show down into reels, like 30-40-second clips as well. And I will share this show to as many people as I possibly can.
Thank you. That's incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to say thank you to both of you. And I want to say thank you to Amanda for putting me in touch with you guys. And please keep in touch with me. And I definitely would like to have you back on again in 6 months. And hopefully this time there'll be a little bit more positive news going forward in the future.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nicole. And thank you, Jane. You take care.
Yes.
God
please
bless.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that concludes season 10, episode 33, overall 528 of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, check out a 2025 Equinox LT all-wheel drive midnight edition. Leaves from $218 bi-weekly. That's like $109 weekly at 5.5% interest for 48 months with $3,900 down payment on an ultra low kilometer lease. More details at barrycullen.com or drop by the dealership. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall, and tell them that Chris Palme sent you as well. And I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Jane Lawton Potelle, who is the founder of the Eaton Fire Residents United, grassroots coalition advocating for the environmental health and community safety in the aftermath of the Eaton fire in the LA area as well. And I want to say thank you to Nicole Maccalla, PhD, professor, researcher, educator, and community advocate, and also a professor with the UCLA and USC. So again, thank you to Jane Potelle and Nicole Maccalla for coming on. And if you live in the United States or in California, please consider helping out with a donation to the American Red Cross or through the humane societies in that area as well. And I will put their website on again. Their website is EFRU.LA/. So that's EFRU.LA, and you can get in touch with Jane and Nicole there. And again, the American Red Cross and they're going to need all the help they can in Eaton County, which is a part of the Los Angeles County. So if you're able to help out in Canada, the States, or wherever you're watching this live streamed or on audio, please get in touch with Jane Lawton Potelle or Nicole Maccalla as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, I have another announcement to make here, and I have another show. The next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, is going to be on Friday, April 25th, which is tomorrow at 2 p.m. with my special guest, Tara Jones, her first appearance on here. She is an up-and-coming, talented stand-up comedian out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So if you like comedians, you like humor, please check out Charity Jones, who's making her first appearance on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show tomorrow at 2 p.m. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this on live stream, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, and to my audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Good Pods as well. And if you'd like to tip the host, I am on PayPal. If you like my talk show and like my media work, I am on PayPal at cpame19@gmail.com. And also, I am a part of the Cameo family. If you like a Cameo, a personalized video message from yours truly, go to cameo.com and type in Chris Pame and book your Cameo. And before we wrap up this show, guys, we've got NBA playoffs tonight. Game 3 of the first round matchup between the Knicks and Pistons at Little Caesars Arena. The first playoff game at Little Caesars Arena since 2019. And the Pistons are looking for their first home playoff win since the 2008 Eastern Conference Finals, where they lost to Boston in 6 games. So good luck to the Pistons tonight. And the Tigers are back in action this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Baltimore Orioles invade Comerica Park, and the Tigers right now have the best record in the American League at 15-10. And again, I want to say thank you to my sponsor, Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. And I thank you to my guests tonight, Jane Lawton Potelle and Nicole Maccalla from Los Angeles, California, sharing their experiences and stories from the Eaton County fires in the LA County area as well. And that's it for tonight's show, guys. I hope everybody has a great night. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for season 10. Episode 34, overall 529 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and in the 905 Woodlawn Road in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out the website, barrycullen.com. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you here tomorrow at 2 o'clock for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.